That day, I realized a truth no one wants to hear. Effort is not an achievement. It is only the entry ticket, not the key to stay. You can sweat, stay up late, work until you forget to eat, and still not get any closer to the finish line. It may sound harsh, but it is the truth. This world does not reward you just because you started. It only respects those who are persistent enough to stay, even when the lights have gone out, the applause has faded, and no one is there to watch. That day, I thought all I needed to do was give everything I had, work until I lost track of time, burn with passion, and I would get what I wanted. But then I saw many people, talented, fiery, full of energy, enter the game as if they were born to win, only to vanish without a trace a few weeks later. The flame flared bright, but there was not enough coal to keep it burning. The truth is, effort only proves you are interested, but it is never proved you are committed. It is like knocking on a door. It lets people know you are outside, but it is not enough to step in and stay. You can see this anywhere. A new employee on their first day arrives earlier than everyone else, greets everyone with a bright smile, makes big promises, works overtime with unmatched determination. But after a few tough projects, a few sleepless nights, and a few times when their hard work did not bring immediate results, they start showing up later, complaining more, and eventually disappear without anyone noticing. Not because they are incapable, but because they believed that the initial effort was enough. I used to be one of them. I once thought that as long as I gave my all in the beginning, the rest would somehow fall into place. But life does not work that way. The world does not reward those who start strong. It rewards those who keep running when the track is silent and the cheers are gone. You can have an outstanding workout session, sweat buckets, and leave the gym feeling like you have just changed your life, but your body will be no different the next morning. You can pull an all-nighter studying and feel smarter, but if you close the book and never open it again, that knowledge will slip from your mind like water through your fingers. Initial effort can make you stand out, but only repetition makes you last. Effort creates noise, but noise fades. Only steady rhythm creates proof, and in a noisy world, proof is the most persuasive thing of all. That is why people believe in your habits more than your words. They watch how you repeat your actions, day after day, until they no longer wonder if you will show up, they simply assume you will. So, what makes most people quit halfway? It is not because they lack skill or opportunity. It is because they never truly signed a contract with themselves, a contract that says they will stay even when the initial excitement has faded, when the results have not yet appeared, and when things become uncomfortable, exhausting, even boring. Only when you sign that contract do you truly step through the door. Only then do you understand that success does not come from one brilliant burst of effort, but from the ordinary days carried out without stopping. And when you begin to see the difference, you will realize what keeps you in the game is not the flame from day one, but the steady heat of every day you choose to stay. Do you think you have done enough to succeed just because you started? The truth might surprise you. Once you understand this principle, you will never quit halfway again. Will you dare to sign that contract with yourself to finish the journey, or will you be the one who leaves the game early? It took me years to understand that the world does not pay you for a grand start. It only pays you when you know how to sustain it. You can have a blazing first week that makes everyone around you admire you, but if you do not show up in the second week or the third, it all becomes nothing more than a memory. Effort is like fireworks on New Year's Eve. Bright, loud, grabbing everyone's attention, but gone in a moment. Perseverance, on the other hand, is like the fire in the kitchen, quiet, but warming the whole house through the winter. I have met many people, from entrepreneurs and athletes to those who simply want to improve themselves. They walk into the room with bold promises to work twice as hard, to study 3 times as much, to never give up. And in the beginning, they truly do it. But when results do not come as quickly as they imagined, when everything starts to demand repetition, patience, and the acceptance of boredom, they quietly disappear. The initial flame was real, but it was never nurtured. Interestingly, the long-term winners are rarely the ones who make the strongest first impression. They are not loud, they do not boast, but they have something the rest lack: rhythm. They know success is not a sprint, but a marathon. They do not put all their trust in feelings because they understand that feelings change day by day. Instead, they rely on habits and systems that are so ingrained they run on autopilot. This is what allows them to keep moving forward even on their worst days. If you pay attention, you will see they do what they committed to even in their lowest moments. And it is those bad days that truly shape them. Because anyone can persist when things are going well, but only those truly committed can persist when the motivation is gone. The question is, which group do you belong to? Will you let yourself disappear when the flame fades? Or will you be the one who stays, keeping the fire burning quietly until the whole room cannot ignore its heat? Leave your answer in the comments. And if you find what I have shared worth reflecting on, like and subscribe so we can go through this journey together. What is the secret that makes those who are quiet at the start end up as the final winners? Understand this, and you will never worry about losing motivation halfway again. Are you brave enough to keep the fire burning on your worst days? There is one thing most people do not realize. Effort and initial excitement are like the morning sunlight, bright, warm, but destined to fade when the afternoon comes. You cannot build a life relying only on that light. When you start any journey, whether it is learning a new skill, launching a project, or changing yourself, the excitement at the beginning will lift you high. But that feeling is not the foundation. The foundation is built from repeated actions, even on the days when you do not feel like doing anything. This is where most people drop out of the game. They believe the excitement will last forever, but when it disappears, they take it as a sign to stop. In reality, that is the exact moment the journey truly begins. I have seen this far too many times, a business launched with applause, only to quietly shut down after a few months. A relationship that began with sweet words, but cracked once things became routine. A perfectly planned workout program abandoned just because of one busy week. What I want you to understand is this. Results are not born from explosive moments, but from the steady rhythm you keep when no one is watching. You do not need to be perfect every day, but you do need to show up every day. Picture a massive machine that needs to be set in motion. The first time you push, it barely moves. The second time, still nothing. But you keep going day after day until it finally begins to turn. And once it has momentum, it is persistence that keeps it running. Your body, your mind, and your career work the same way. They do not change because of a single push, but because of many small pushes that never stop. The difference between someone who just tries and someone who truly succeeds is not in how powerfully they start, but in whether they can keep going when no one is cheering, when nothing feels new, when everything has become an ordinary part of their day. That is a rare ability because it requires you to rise above temporary emotions and act from decision. I believe that if you know where you want to go, you will not need to search for motivation every day. You just need to remind yourself that every small action today is a brick laid on the road towards your goal. An imperfect day is still better than an empty one. 10 minutes of exercise is still better than doing nothing. Writing a single paragraph is still better than leaving the whole chapter unfinished. When you keep up those small actions long enough, you will see that change does not arrive like a storm. It arrives like the sunrise, slow, certain, and unstoppable. This is not about doing a lot at once, but about doing enough, consistently, without stopping. Because effort is the opening drumbeat, but perseverance is the melody that carries you to the end. And only when you understand that will you stop chasing the feeling of burning and start building a fire that never goes out. There is a truth few people want to admit. Results do not come immediately, even when you are doing everything right. You can pour your entire mind, time, and energy into a goal, yet there will be days, sometimes weeks, when you see no sign of progress at all. And it is in those quiet stretches that many people decide to quit. They mistake silence for failure, believing that if results have not shown up yet, it must mean they are doing something wrong. What they do not realize is that the seed is still germinating beneath the soil, quietly growing, preparing for the moment it will break through with strength. This is the rule every lasting achievement follows: Progress is a slow accumulation, repeated over and over, and it only bursts into view when you have stayed long enough to outlast the phase where most people give up. I once witnessed an athlete train for months, without his performance improving by even a fraction. He kept lifting, kept running, kept eating with discipline. Many told him to take a break or change his method, but he stayed. And then, one day, almost overnight, his body transformed, his strength surged, and his results skyrocketed. Not because of magic, but because all those quiet efforts had finally compounded into a visible outcome. In business, this principle is just as true. You can build systems, make dozens of calls, send hundreds of emails, and see nothing but silence. Yet if you persist, keep showing up every day, and keep executing the foundational actions, at some point the big deal will close, the clients will return, and the revenue will climb. Not because you did something drastically different that day, but because you had built up enough credit for the results to finally pay back. The problem is, most of us are not patient enough to wait. We are obsessed with speed and instant gratification, forgetting that anything truly valuable takes time to form. And that impatience is what traps many people in the endless loop of starting, quitting, starting again. If you want to break that loop, you must learn to love the quiet, love the consistency, love showing up even when no one is watching. That is how you send a powerful message. I am not here to play around. I am here to finish. When you sustain this, you will notice a subtle shift within yourself. You will no longer work only for an external goal, but also for your own self-belief. Every time you stay one more day, you reinforce one truth. I am the kind of person who keeps promises to myself. And when you become that kind of person, results are only a matter of time. Silence is no longer something to fear. It becomes proof of a process quietly at work. And when the breakthrough moment arrives, you will not be surprised because you know you signed the contract to stay a long time ago. Most people think they quit because they are tired, because they do not have enough time, or because they have lost motivation. But the deeper truth is that they quit because they lose trust in themselves. Every time you promise yourself you will do something and then you do not follow through, a small crack forms in that trust. At first, it seems insignificant. You tell yourself, just today, I will skip it and get back on track tomorrow. But then it happens again, and slowly, the gap between your promises and your actions becomes too wide to bridge. This is why I always say, consistency does not just create results, it builds identity. Every repeated action is a vote you cast for the person you want to become. If each day you follow through on what you said you would do, you are reinforcing the identity of a disciplined, reliable person. On the other hand, if you regularly skip or quit, you are reinforcing the image of someone who gives up easily, and eventually your self-trust will collapse. Once that trust is gone, every new plan is weak from the very beginning. You may get excited to brainstorm ideas, write down goals, and create schedules, but deep down, you do not believe you will actually follow through. And when you do not believe yourself, you will find every reason to escape the moment difficulties arise. Staying consistent is not about always having inspiration. It is about knowing that if you skip today, you will pay twice the price tomorrow. That is why I see each day as a chance to cast a vote for my future. No single vote decides the outcome, but hundreds or thousands of votes together create an undeniable picture. And if you want that picture to be of someone who finishes what they start, someone trustworthy, then every vote, every day you keep, your word matters. A friend of mine once lost over 20 kilograms in a year, not through extreme training, but by running 3 kilometers every morning, rain or shine. Not once during that year did he break the chain. The results came slowly, but each step changed not only his body, but also the way he saw himself. He told me, "Now I am not just someone healthier, I am someone who does what I say I will do." And that is the difference. Consistency turns actions into identity. You might start with the goal of improving your appearance, increasing your income, or learning a new skill. But if you persist long enough, the greatest reward will not be the result. It will be who you become in the process. Once that new identity is formed, maintaining your actions becomes natural, no longer a burden. You stop asking, should I do this today? You just do it because it is what you do every day. And when you reach that point, every external result is simply a bonus to the internal transformation you have built through small, repeated, unwavering steps. There is a mistake many people make. They bet their future on motivation. They believe that as long as they keep themselves excited, everything will go smoothly. But motivation is like an unpredictable guest here today, gone tomorrow. If you let your progress depend on it, you will always be stuck in the loop of starting, quitting, and starting again. I used to be like that. There were days I woke up feeling unstoppable. I worked with intensity, trained relentlessly, and believed I could keep that pace forever. But then, without any major reason, there were mornings I did not want to get out of bed. And if I relied only on my feelings, I would miss that day, then the next, until the entire plan faded away. That was when I realized what I needed was not motivation, it was a system. A system does not care how you feel. It only knows that every day you will do what has been scheduled. It removes the decision of, should I do it? And replaces it with, do it, because this is what I always do. Think about brushing your teeth. You do not need to be inspired to pick up your toothbrush. You do it because it is part of your day. If you can make the habits that matter most to your goals as automatic as that, you will no longer be ruled by emotion. In my work, I created fixed time blocks to handle key tasks, not based on whether I felt like doing them, but on the principle that when the time comes, I work. In my physical training, I picked a specific time of day to exercise and treated it no differently than eating breakfast. No skipping, no delaying. A system eliminates negotiations with yourself. It protects you from laziness, from distraction, from excuses that sound reasonable but are really just traps for procrastination. More importantly, it creates an environment where the right action becomes the easiest choice. Once you get used to just doing it, you will see that feelings are no longer the deciding factor. There will be days you start a workout feeling heavy but finish with more energy. There will be days you sit at your desk without enthusiasm but leave with satisfaction. That is the power of a system. It gets you to show up even when you do not want to, and those days are the true key to long-term progress. Lasting success does not come from bursts of high energy, but from actions maintained like a heartbeat. Once you lock yourself into a solid system, results are no longer a question of if, only when. And when that day comes, you will not feel lucky. You will see it as inevitable because you did everything necessary to be there. What causes many people to fail is not that they do not know what to do, but that they do not know how to protect their progress from interruptions. They can be on the right track, and then one busy day appears, an unexpected problem comes up, or a wave of fatigue hits, and they skip their habit once. Missing once is fine, but then it happens a second time, a third, and the habit is gone. The problem is not a lack of ability. It is the absence of a principle to protect consistency. I have always believed that missing one day can happen, but 2 days in a row must never be allowed. This principle is like a protective fence that keeps you from sliding too far off the track. You will not lose results after one break, but you will lose momentum, and momentum is the hardest thing to build. Look at any field sports, business. Learning the one who keeps their rhythm is the one who keeps the advantage. When you maintain a steady pace, you do not have to spend energy restarting from scratch or waste time regaining focus. Each day that follows the next becomes a strong chain, and the longer you keep it intact, the harder it is to break. Protecting your rhythm is not just about avoiding missed days, it is also about knowing how to adjust when necessary. Many people think that if they cannot do a perfect version of their habit, they might as well skip it. That mindset is what keeps them stuck. In reality, when you are busy or exhausted, do a smaller version. Cannot work out for 60 minutes? Do 15. Cannot write a full chapter? Write a paragraph. Because maintaining action, even at a smaller scale, keeps the chain unbroken. This is the difference between someone who is good at starting and someone who knows how to sustain. The one who sustains does not wait for perfect conditions to continue. They know perfection does not come from scale, but but from continuity. And each time they get through a tough day with a small action, they send themselves a powerful message: I am not quitting, I am adjusting. Your habits are a form of asset. If you stop contributing to them, their value decreases. But if you invest in them every day, even just a little, that asset grows, and one day you will be surprised by the value you have built. This is why I see protecting your rhythm as just as important as starting. A strong start gives you motivation, but it is keeping the rhythm that takes you far. And when you become the kind of person who never lets 2 days pass without action, you will realize that progress does not just come from big bursts, but from refusing to let your chain break. Most people think that results are the only reward for perseverance, but there is a greater, deeper, and more important reward than any number or title. It is the transformation within yourself. Every time you show up when you do not feel like it, every time you keep a promise to yourself when no one is watching, you are sending a quiet yet powerful message to yourself: I am someone I can rely on. This trust does not come from affirmations or short bursts of motivation. It comes from the evidence you create for yourself through repeated actions. You begin to see that you are no longer someone trying to become disciplined. You are a disciplined person. This is a turning point that not everyone reaches, because most people stop before the identity has time to form. When what you do becomes part of who you are, maintaining it is no longer a challenge, it becomes instinct. You no longer debate with yourself each morning about whether to train, study, or work. You just do it. The way you brush your teeth or tie your shoes, it is simply what you do. And at this point, results start to become a natural consequence. You are no longer chasing success. Success comes to you because you have become the kind of person success wants to be associated with. I have met people who completely changed their lives, not because they did something extraordinary, but because they did something ordinary with extraordinary consistency. A friend of mine started writing 200 words a day, no more, no less. 3 years later, he published a best-selling book. When asked about his secret, he did not talk about marketing strategies or bursts of creative inspiration. He simply said, I wrote every day, even when I didn't want to, and that's all. It sounds simple, but to reach that point, you have to pass through the hardest stage, the middle. At the beginning of the journey, motivation pulls you forward. At the end, results pull you forward. But in the middle, where there is no applause and no finish line in sight, you are left with only yourself. This is where you build real strength. And when you get through it, you carry it for life. That is when you realize a valuable truth. Your original goal was just the excuse to start, but who you become is the reason you keep going. Results may come and go, but your new identity stays. And when you have become a person who keeps promises to yourself, every other area of your life changes. You begin to work better, build stronger relationships, and take better care of yourself, not because you have to, but because it is simply how you live. That is the reward no title can ever match. What many people do not realize is that when you change the way you see yourself, your entire standard of living changes with it. In the past, you might have been satisfied with completing a small goal or skipping a workout without thinking much of it. But once a new identity has taken root, skipping becomes unusual, almost uncomfortable. You begin to ask yourself, if I am a disciplined person, what would I do today? And that question is no longer a source of pressure, but a compass guiding you toward better choices. This is the difference between those who maintain success and those who lose it. People who lose success often see the result as the final destination. Once they achieve it, they relax, return to old habits, and gradually lose what they worked for. Those who maintain success understand that results are only temporary proof of a process that never ends. They do not protect their success by focusing on the result, but by protecting the habits that created it in the first place. I remember speaking with a fitness coach who had helped hundreds of people reach their weight loss goals. He said, the people who keep their results are not the ones who train like crazy for 6 months. They are the ones who find a way to make training part of their life for the rest of their life. That principle applies to every area: finances, career, skills, or relationships. When the right actions have become part of who you are, you no longer have to force yourself to maintain them. Like an old tree with deep roots, you are not swayed by small gusts of wind. But to grow roots that deep, you have to endure harsh seasons without stopping your growth. You have to stay when things are boring, when no one is watching, when no praise or recognition comes. It is in those seasons that you are building inner strength, the kind that quick results can never give you. And that inner strength has a powerful side effect. It spreads to every other area of your life. When you become the kind of person who keeps promises to yourself, you also become the kind of person others can trust. Colleagues trust you with important work. Friends and family trust in your presence. Opportunities find you because people know that if you say you will do something, you will do it. And when you live in that trust, you are no longer working just to get results. You are working because it is who you are. This is why I always emphasize, true success is not about what you achieve, but about who you become in the process. Because once you have become a person with high standards for yourself, you will not accept anything less in your work, in your health, in your relationships, and in the way you live each day. If there is one thing I want you to remember from everything we have talked about, it is this. Effort gets you into the game, but perseverance takes you to the finish line. You can start with a sprint that impresses everyone, but what happens when the race lasts longer than you expected, when the cheers fade, when your legs grow heavy? That is when you have to rely on something else, not emotion, not luck, but the discipline you have built for yourself day after day. Perseverance is not about doing as much as possible in a short burst. It is about doing enough steadily for so long that it becomes instinct. And when what you do becomes instinct, you will realize you have gone far beyond what you once thought possible. I have worked with people who drew no attention at the start. They were not the fastest, the smartest, or the most talented, but they showed up every day, completed small tasks, and patiently waited for results. Over the years, they not only achieved their original goals, but unlocked even bigger opportunities because people knew they could be trusted. That is the power of signing a contract with yourself, a contract with no expiration date and only one clause. I will continue no matter what. When you live by this principle, you see changes in every area of life. In work, you become the person entrusted with difficult projects because people know you will deliver. In health, you maintain good fitness not through extreme workout phases, but through the habit of moving every day. In relationships, you build trust because you show up even when it is inconvenient. Sustainable success does not come from one big breakthrough, but from thousands of small, steady, consistent steps. What allows those steps to add up to results is that you do not miss, you do not quit, and you do not look for shortcuts. You stay, you do the work, and you let time do its part. When you look back, you will realize that the most valuable thing is not what you achieved, but who you had to become in order to achieve it. Someone can start strong, but only those who stay until the end will finish. Someone can have all the talent in the world, but only those who re-sign that contract with themselves every day will build something that lasts. And when you understand this, you will stop obsessing over how to start stronger and start focusing on how to keep going when things are no longer new, no longer exciting, and no longer easy. Because in the end, victory does not belong to the one who starts first. It belongs to the one who refuses to give up. In the end, I want you to remember that every great journey is built from small, repeated steps, even when no one is watching. Never underestimate an ordinary day, because it is those days that are quietly shaping you. You do not need to be the strongest, the fastest, or the smartest. You only need to be the one who stays when others walk away. Because there will come a time when the greatest reward is not the result itself, but the person you have become. Keep signing that contract with yourself every morning, every day, and let time prove that you made the right choice. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I wish you health, steadfast spirit, and peace on every path you choose. Because when you have health, peace, and persistence, nothing is impossible.